One day there was a group of fish swimming, relaxing, enjoying it. It was during the coronavirus. Nobody was out in the water and having a great day. Next thing they know, a net catches them, pulls them out of the water, and they go into the boat. And they panic. They're out of the water. But then they hear great news. The fishermen say to one another, oh my God, this particular fish are so big. We're going to bring it to the wealthy man in town. He loves this size fish. So they relax. They say, we have nothing to worry. They're going to bring us to a person's home that's going to love us. And an hour later, they pull up to the house. They bring the fish into the house. And some of the people that work in the house say, oh my God, the owner is going to be so excited. He loves this type of fish. Now the fish are feeling really good about themselves. They heard the owner loves the fish. Next thing they know, the fish is dragged into the kitchen, put on the table, and the person takes out a big knife and about to cut the fish open. And as he's bringing down the knife, the fish shout out, you don't love us. You don't love fish. You love yourself. This is a beautiful story to bring out something that's very, very important to us to understand, which we're going to talk about today. That if we get this point, this will be a life-changing message for our relationship with our spouse, with our relationship with our children, and our relationship with God. You may not know, but right now on the Jewish calendar, the period that we're going through between Pesach and Shavuos is considered a sad period. It's considered days of mourning. You may wonder, really, why? There is a law in the Code of Jewish Law that during this period between Pesach and Shavuos, those who follow Jewish law, we do not make any weddings. Only a one day on Lag BaOmer. The Ashkenazim go from Pesach to Shavuos. The Sephardim go from Pesach to Lag BaOmer. But this is the period of time that's considered a very sad period. You may ask why. And the reason is because 1900 years ago, in this period, 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva, the great, great Talmudic scholar, Rabbi Akiva's students passed away. And they all passed away in a very short period. And I remember whenever I used to hear this story, whenever we said this story until this year, I always wondered, really, how does 24,000 people die in such a short period of time? And how come only these 24,000 students in this particular yeshiva, no one else died? Why don't we talk about them? Now, what we went through the last month, you see in Italy, in a small city, in Spain, in China, in Brooklyn, New York, thousands of people could die. So it's understood, could have been some type of pandemic that went through the yeshiva and killed all 24,000 of the students. So my question is, so why do we mourn 1900 years later because 24,000 students died? We know that in Judaism, we don't look at any event that happens. It just happens. It happened to be that a person ate a bat in China, and that person got the coronavirus, and he passed to someone else, and they passed to someone else, and then the whole world got it, and the whole economy shut down, and everything is in the situation we are today. We don't look at it that way. We always look, there is a purpose and a meaning to everything. Things don't happen just by chance. That's how we look at it. There's always a reason. Sometimes we understand, and sometimes we don't understand. So the rabbis in the Talmud asked the question, why did the 24,000 students pass away? So you may say, well, what do you mean they passed away? Look at the medical record. They'll tell you why. But we know there got to be a greater reason for it. There got to be a reason for it. So the Talmud tells us something that's quite disturbing. The Talmud says it's because they didn't have respect one another. So the question is asked, it can't be that these students were just regular people in the street. They must have been some really great giants. Why? Because they're regular people that died. Why 1900 years later, we're still mourning it? So it must have been that they were very special, holy people. But if they were special, holy people, how could it be one of the basic mitzvahs of the Torah, love thy neighbor as you love yourself, is something that they were lacking, and because of that they died? Even more so, their teacher, Rabbi Akiva, was the one that used to say this phrase over and over again. Love thy neighbor as you love yourself. This is the foundation of the Torah. So the teacher that preached it, not only preached it, because a lot of times we preach it and we don't live it. The Talmud tells us stories that he lived by it. With tremendous love for one person and another, how could it be that his students failed at that? That they didn't love each other? And because of that, they actually passed away. So the Talmud tells us something very interesting. It doesn't say they didn't love each other. It says they didn't respect each other. That's what it says. Now, what's the difference between love and respect? That's what we're going to talk about. The Rambam Maimonides says that a person has to love his spouse like his body, and he has to respect his spouse even more than his own body. What's the difference between love and respect? Love is a very powerful emotion. But love is about myself. I love you. I feel a certain way when it's about you. Love doesn't take into account always the other person. How many people you know abuse other people even though they love the other person because it's about themselves? They're angry at the other person that the other person doesn't make them feel a certain way, so they treat them a certain way. Loving another person is usually more a reflection about you. And when that person's existence affects you, you treat them in a way that's not loving. You treat them in a way that can be hurtful for them. I remember I was once dealing with a couple that was having domestic violence. And I was speaking to the prosecutor who prosecutes a lot of these cases. They said, you know what, a lot of people that are abused, they don't want to press charges. Why? They say, oh, because the person loves me. He really loves me. He says, you know how many dead wives or dead husbands there are and the spouses love them? They don't really love them. They love themselves. And that's why they could do things to other people. But then there is respect. When you respect another person, it's not about yourself, it's about them. Respect is putting that person in front of you, before you. I look up to you. It's not about me, it's about you. In a relationship, you need to have love, and in a relationship, you need to have respect. If you just have love, it's not a healthy relationship, and if we don't have respect. Let's talk about Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva preached to his students to love each other. And they did love each other. Rabbi Akiva's students were very passionate students. So when Rabbi Akiva would get up and give a lecture, one student after the lecture would say, you know what the teacher meant? He meant the main thing is to serve God with love. Another student says, what are you talking about? The main thing he said is to serve God out of fear, or whatever the lecture was about. Now, if you don't love a person, you'll say, okay, believe what you want and have a nice day. But if you love another person, then I care what the person is thinking. So I'm going to argue with you and fight with you until you're going to agree with me. And then you stop respecting each other because you become angry. Why don't you believe like my teacher, like what my teacher said? This is what he meant. So they loved each other, but they didn't respect each other. Respect is, in spite of you understood my teacher's lecture different than I, in spite of you, I believe is wrong, I still respect you. And I give honor to you because you are a special person. That's what was lacking by them. My dear friends, this is something so important that we need to bring to our own life. We need to, more than just love each other, we need to respect each other. When a husband and wife respect each other, when parents and children respect each other, when we have respect for our friends, that's a different world. You know now how challenging it is? Unfortunately, because of all the politics that's out there, people love the people that they love, they don't respect them anymore. How can I respect you when you believe so-and-so is good in politics or so-and-so is bad in politics? You know what? Respecting another person means in spite of I feel you got it wrong, I still respect you as a person. And that's something that's so important. And it's something that so many people fail, and Rabbi Akiva students failed at it. And that's something that we need to have. You know, a great rabbi, Rabbi Auerbach, he passed away a few years ago, and his wife passed away even a few years before that. So one of the customs by the cemetery is, when you're burying a loved one, is you go over to the coffin before you lower the coffin and you ask them forgiveness if you hurt them in any way. So by his wife's funeral, he said, I don't have to do that. So after the funeral, someone came over to him and says, Rabbi, you were married for so many years. You never had an argument. You never had a disagreement. He says, of course we had arguments. But we always argued in a respectful way. My dear friends, bringing respect to other people is the utmost. A rabbi was once walking down the street. And he goes into the jewelry store and he says, I want to buy some jewelry for my wife. He says, what would you like? He says, I don't know. Is your wife here? The owner of the jewelry store says, yeah. He calls his wife out. She was in the back room. And he asks his wife, what do you think is a nice bracelet for my wife? She picks it out and he buys it and leaves. So one of his assistants is walking with the rabbi, says, Rabbi, why are you buying the jewelry for your wife? It's not her birthday, you didn't have an anniversary, and I'm sure you didn't do anything wrong in your relationship. So I want to tell you what. I was walking by this store a few days ago, and I heard the way the husband is telling the wife, you're a loser, you never make a sale, why do I even bring you to the store? And I saw that he spoke to her in such a disrespectful way. I wanted to bring her respect, that she is special, she is someone that makes a difference. That's what I wanted to teach her. My dear friends, this is something that we need to do. We need to make sure that the people that we love, as importantly, more importantly, is the people that we also respect. Shabbat Shalom.